Well, good morning. Here we are on the pagan day of Thursday, November 10th. It is the third day of the 8th month on the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH. And I'm out here just after the start of a true scriptural day, dawn. And the moon, once again, is greeting the sun at the dawn. And for the last 3 days, this moon, as you have seen, also greeted the sun at sunrise. So, what day was the true first day of the 8th month? Well, as Hanok stated in chapter 78, a full moon, a restored moon, is the first day of any given scriptural month. And in this case, this 8th month, there was a lunar eclipse happening after the midnight time period, going into the pagan day of Tuesday, November 8th. Remember, a sign scripturally is all three witnesses of light. And at the dawn, we can see the sun, moon, and stars. And if you understand Hanok with a dawn day start, yes, the moon greets the sun at the dawn first light when the rays of the sun rise over the moon, as we can see even here on this third day. So again, some people are getting confused that you've got to see the moon in the sky and the sun at the same time. Well, we have 3 days of that, and as we know, 2 to 3 times a year the moon does not greet the sun at sunrise for everyone, everywhere. And that little celestial event confuses the many. But if you understand Hanok and how to count your days with all of the lights, then this becomes extremely simple. So that's what this scriptural study video will be about. I'm going to stay till sunrise. Again, the moon will greet the sun again at sunrise, just as it has for the last 3 days. Remember, you can only get a lunar eclipse when the sun is highest in the sky and the moon is at the 180-degree mark. This is what produces a full moon, and when it gets really close, you get this lunar eclipse, which happened on the pagan day of Tuesday, November 8th, and by the dawn that announced the true new moon day. Remember, signs are from all three witnesses of light, not just two, and are one, regrettably, as the many tried to promote and get everybody off track. So in this video, we're going to go through the Hanok count in chapter 78, the 15-day count after the first day, in this case, the 8th month. So I'm going to stay till sunrise again. And remember, look at this moon. Each day, if you've noticed the video footage, it's higher. So some people that wait for the next day, think about something else. They're doing it for 2 reasons. One, when the moon is 1 to 2 degrees above the horizon greeting the sun at sunrise, they get nervous. So they hold off and they go to the next day. But look at this moon. It's at 96% waning phase. And some people are saying erroneously that it's the second day. Well, how do you get a moon phase below 96% on the second day? Think. And the only way you can get the answer is understanding the phases as described by Hanok when the light starts to diminish, and we're going to go through that. So let's wait till the sunrise and then we'll get into the video. Okay then, sunrise for me was 7:07 a.m. We've just confirmed that as well from the forecast, like anyone can do any given day. And this moon is now below 96% illuminated. Again, it's Thursday, the pagan day of November 10th, 2022. And if I pan over, as you can see here, there's just after sunrise. So to the untrained eye, based on what people share about the moon having to be above with the sun at the same time, they might think, the way people speak about it, that this is the first day of the 8th month or first day of any given scriptural month. But again, for the last 3 days, this moon has greeted the sun, for me anyways, at sunrise as well. And 2 to 3 times a year that does not happen. So again, very simply put, look how high this moon is at sunrise. This is not a second day. This is a third day. Number 2, the moon is now below 96% illumination. Look what Hanok stated, what happens on a third diminishing time period. Again, this is definitely a third day of the 8th month, and we'll go over this in the video now with the numbers and the backup. We have the film footage, and this is a $100 phone from Samsung. That's it. Proving that, again, there's too much discussion on the online platforms and not enough of this getting out every day to understand why a true day start is the dawn, according to Hanok's writings, let alone just basic historical fact. Hallelujah! It's the third day of the 8th month on the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH. If you believe in utilizing all three witnesses of light and in accordance with the prophet's writings up to and including the book of Hanok. Yes, today, the third day of the 8th month, happens to be on the pagan day of Thursday, November 10th, 2022. So let's go over the past 3 days, really to put this to bed, because it's really easy to explain when you utilize all of the scriptural witnesses, let alone all of the scriptural witnesses of light, the sun, moon, and the stars. So, on the pagan day of Tuesday, November 8th, the first day of the 8th month, at first light, the dawn, the start of the 4th watch, the moon in my area was 100% fully restored and was a lunar eclipse at 5:25 a.m., as you can see here. And it was 17 degrees above the horizon. And as per Matthew chapter 5, verse 15, from our only teacher, the Messiah, Yahushua, the lights are a light on a lampstand for all in the house to see. So think about this, 17 degrees above the horizon, regardless of tree lines, building lines, living in a valley, you're going to see this. And if you understand at the 180 degree mark when the moon is at that one point, it is even more prevalent or pronounced for all in the house to see. So many out there took the forecast from Monday, November 7th, past midnight into Tuesday, November 8th, and they took the forecast to see when the lunar eclipse was going to happen in their particular area. And look what happened. They knew it was a light on a lampstand. They knew that they could actually see it. So hallelujah. If any of you still are allergic to utilizing apps, well, please don't be silly. Everyone, right to the minute, right to the second, confirmed the lunar eclipse utilizing that information. And remember, the ancients knew the speed in which the stars, the moon, and the sun moved, and they could forecast as well. And this is why the Magi knew the birth location, let alone the time based on the sign and or signs that the sun, moon, and stars produce. So again, if you're waiting for a sunrise view, you're going to miss the stars. So think about why people are pointing you to the sunrise. Remember, the Egyptians had a sunrise day start, and the chosen ones left Egypt for many reasons, including that. Think about the Babylonians. They got you to focus on the sunset only. And once again, same output. You don't get the signs with all three witnesses of light with the sun, moon, and stars. So don't be surprised that the scripture says we are to come out of Egypt, come out of Babylon. And this is what we do with this information, because a true scriptural day start, as we can see from these scriptural witnesses, and there came to be morning Bokar the first day, Genesis 19:15, and when the morning Shakar dawned, and then the Yonah, beautiful scriptural passage that helps us confirm why the 3 days and nights occurred the way they did, but as morning dawned, Shakar the next day. So here we are. It's plain as day. And again, think about a cigarette package with a warning sign on it. And as the years go by, they increase the size of that warning label on the cigarette package, but the many ignore it. So don't be surprised people are going to ignore the signs. They ignore them everywhere else. That's how the many act, because they're opinionated. This has nothing to do with me. This is not my opinion. This is scriptural truth as backed up by astronomical records that people can verify if they indeed go outside to test and prove with all three witnesses. So let's take a look at this a little further from a sunrise standpoint, because by sunrise, the moon was still, for me, 100% fully restored. and it was 1 degree above the horizon. And I actually was successful enough to get film and photograph footage. And as we know scripturally, sunrise is the end of the fourth watch and what they call the start of the first hour. And finally, again, 2 to 3 times a year, the moon does not greet the sun at sunrise everywhere for everyone. And this is where the confusion starts to happen, because people get real nervous about this 1 to 2 degree, and they've been doing something silly of late, waiting for the next day, and thus they missed all those previous signs. How do I know this? Well, even Stellarium will show this. You're not going to see any of the stars that the moon rules with at sunrise. Stellarium even can give you that same view that you would see outside. But again, I had film and photograph footage of the moon greeting the sun at sunrise, over and above the lunar eclipse at the dawn, ruling with that set of specific stars that it rules with for every 8th month annually. Well, let's go to the next day, Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, which was the 2nd day of the 8th month. Here we are at first light, the dawn, start of the 4th watch, and look at the moon. The moon now has waned to 99.1%. And it's 27 degrees above the horizon, even higher than the day before at the dawn. Let's go to sunrise for this particular day. And as you can see, the moon is still a light on a lampstand, but it won't be come sunrise. And there it is at sunrise. It's 11 degrees above the horizon, and it has further waned to 98.9%. Now, I dare anyone to say that a first day of any given scriptural month, the moon is at 11 degrees above the horizon at sunrise. Think about this. You can go back to all of your records, and a first day of any scriptural month, you won't get the moon at 11 degrees above. And here it is again. It's further waned to 98.9, and this, based on Hanok's writing, in parts, as he talked about light in parts or portions, is truly a 2nd day, 8th month. So again, people that said that the day Wednesday, November 9th, which is the first day, they got their math wrong, and they can go back and verify it. So again, we're going to go over where you can find that math according to Hanok's writings and how we measure it, because we don't measure it in parts anymore or portions as Hanok did. We use percentages. So again, very basic, right? And if we go to the 3rd day today, what I actually shared with film and photograph footage again, on the pagan day, Thursday, November 10th, the 3rd day of the 8th month, first light, dawn, start of the 4th watch, the moon further waned to 96.1% and was 38 degrees above the horizon. So the people saying that it's a 2nd day, how do you get a 2nd day with a moon that's waned to 96.1? So again, check your records. Now, if you don't keep records, it's going to be problematic. And by sunrise today, as I shared with film and photograph footage, the moon further waned to 95.8, and it was 21 degrees above the horizon. Again, look at your records for months that you don't get this celestial event where the moon doesn't greet the sun at sunrise for everyone. So, the regular months, as some people would define them, you're never going to get a 2nd day with the moon being 21 degrees above the horizon. You're not going to see that. But if you don't keep records, you would not be aware of that. If you don't number your days daily with the sun, moon, and stars, this is going to behoove you. You're not even going to be aware of it. So pretty basic, and let's continue on. Because as we can see for this particular month, like the 6th month, the 8th month had that celestial event where the moon didn't greet the sun at sunrise for everyone. Stop the video now, really take a look at the data here, as we've proven with film and photograph footage, like we did in the 6th month. And by the way, we are extremely confident and comfortable and at peace with this. Why? This will happen again. And when it does, we have records to go over it. And people will come around. They all do. It just takes a matter of patience, right? So there are 3 phases to truth, which I will share at the end of this video. Because if you took the dawn with a fully restored moon, you would be all on the same page for the pagan day of Tuesday, November 8th, being the first day of the 8th month. Again, the witnesses of light unite. They don't divide. But If you're more concerned with who is right, you'll find a way to divide, and people are extremely successful at that. And they love to divide. They love the fight, right? Well, we're beyond striving with the flesh. Not an issue for me. I'm immune to it now. Because humility is concerned with what is right for everyone. If you have pride and only concern with who is right, you will look for the division. It's a different approach. If you wake up in the morning to disprove and guess, well, you will be successful. But if you wake up in the morning to not guess, to look at all of the evidence, to prove it with and including the writings of Hanok, you will find what actually unites us all here on the face of the earth. But this takes patience. Remember the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, and peace. You have to delight. Love, joy, and peace are the definitions of the word delight. But this takes patience. Now, if you want to dumb it down and just use one witness like the sun, some people are solar and they like to dumb things down. Some people are lunar solar only and they dumb them down that way. But they miss all the rest of the witnesses. This takes patience. And again, I went through it. I never had patience at the start. Some of you that are struggling with this and are fighting this, well, I fought far more diligently than some of you are doing. And regrettably, I could have delivered it and handled it a lot better back then. So I'm guilty of this very same thing in regards to pride. I used to do the very same thing, but I don't anymore. I follow Psalms 119, verse 129, and I look at all of the witnesses from YaHUaH because his witnesses are wonders, and why my being observes them. But people don't delight in this. They're more concerned with airing their opinions. So I go to the numbers, I film and photograph. So again, a dawn day start. You've got even the renewed covenant. Stop the video. Look, our only teacher walked on the water during the fourth watch at the dawn. What a magnificent sight that would have been to actually observe. And they came to the tomb toward the dawn. At the end of a day, a true scriptural day starts at first light, the dawn, fourth watch. So pretty basic, and we know that at dawn, the sun rises over against her. The rays of light rise over against the moon. And the moon shines the whole night through, and she's a full moon, restored, fully restored. That's a full moon, not a waning moon. And yes, there are time periods where the moon by dawn, it'll be full that evening through the 4 night watches, but by the dawn, it possibly will get into a 99.9, but it won't be 96 like we've seen here. Again, this is basic astronomical fact. It's absolute truth, but you can't ignore it, and the many will, and we're counting on the many to ignore it. It brings joy because it gives us the opportunity to share why it's being ignored. Which brings us to Hanok chapter 78, verse 8. Because after the first day of any given scriptural month, Hanok measured 15 days of parts of light. So we're going to get into that because the first day is a standalone day. Think about this. The first day of a scriptural month, any given month, is the moon. The next day, the second day, is the first work day. So this 15-day count starts on the first work day after the first day, the restored moon. So pretty basic to explain. And again, Hanok chapter 78, verse 8. Let's go through this with the math. So we number all of our days with Hanok. Again, we're not opinionated. We go to the scriptures. It says the sun, moon, and stars are for days and years and appointed times and signs. So it says Hanok backs that up. So we just basically take his writings with everything else and measure it with the measurements that exist because of the Father of Lights. This is not artificial intelligence. All of this has been verified, like the lunar eclipse. So again, it takes patience to do these things, let alone prove all things. And that's part of the fruit of the Spirit. It's difficult. So let's go over this in great detail. So on the 6th month, it was the fully restored moon. It was on the pagan day, September 10th. Now, some people, because this event happens, where the moon doesn't greet the sun at sunrise everywhere, they decided on the 11th. But if they did that, They are not a full moon believer. They're a waning moon believer. Look, the moon went down to 99.0. Now, what is this number in this column? Well, this is at the 180 degree mark from stellarium, and you can verify this with your fingers. And for me, this happens between 1 a.m. in the morning to 1:30 in the morning. And so this is the September 10th after the midnight time period. And the next day, this is where Hanok said, and in her diminishing decreases on the first day to 14 parts of light. There's the 99, 13 parts, 95.5 to 11 on the 4th, and all the way to that 15th count that happens and starts after the first day of any scriptural month. And her remaining light disappears wholly on the 15th. So there's a phone call behind me, which I will not answer. So, make a long story short, you'll notice it's 0.1. Now that's just after the midnight time period. If you go to the dawn, it goes dark completely to that 0. The following day it starts to wax again. So this is where the light diminishes in parts. And regrettably, we measure it in percentage points. Hanok measured it differently. And this is why I always use the example. I live in Canada. We're on the metric system. So if you lived in the US as an example and came to build a shed in my backyard, you would be using imperial numbers. You would be using feet, yards, but I would be building that shed with centimeters, meters, if you will. So you'd have to learn how Hanok actually described these parts. So this is the 6th month. So September. And that's how that works. So now let's go to the 7th month to see if you get the same scenario. Well, in the 7th month, everybody was on the same page. There was not that celestial event where the moon doesn't greet the sun at sunrise everywhere. It happened everywhere. No questions, right? So here we are on the pagan day of October 10th, and take a look at the same thing. After midnight on October 10th, that moon was fully restored, and all the way to the dawn when the light was still a light on a lampstand. We seen that moon rule with the star cluster known as Aries and the middle star known as Hamal the Lamb, which it does every 7th month, and there are other stars, obviously. So look at day 1 of that count, those 15 days, and we get the same scenario. All the way, again, this number represents my area, and as you can see, it is going to where her light disappears wholly on that 15 count. So really basic to explain. Stop the video and or go to the description box. All of these charts are available free of charge, no obligation whatsoever other than don't be like a cigarette smoker and ignore the sign on the cigarette package. Look at the data. And if you want to have a discussion with me, again, it's with math. It's with the scriptural stars, sun, moon, and stars, Isaiah's writings, Hanok's writings. I'm not into opinions anymore. It slows you down. Do this. Count it out. Counteract with an actual discussion with sun, moon, and stars, not an opinion. Count out the numbers. See what you come up with. And this is what we were told back in 2008. And I'll explain that more as we go through. So here we are now. We're in a forecast because the previous 2 months, we verified it right to the minute, right to the second. Each of the things. Dawn, sunrise, noon, sunset, moonrise, moonset, percent illumination. We've already verified the 6th month, the 7th month. So here we are in the 8th month. Let's explain this. So Tuesday, November 8th, was the lunar eclipse, the first day of the 8th month in November here. We know that. We know that. That's already done. And look at the second day here. Her light decreases to 14 parts. But some people are saying today's the second day at 96. You never see that on any other regular month. You don't see that. And as a result, the folks that chose November 9th as their first day, they're in a waning moon scenario at the 180 degree mark. And by the dawn, it wanes even further, as we showed in this video clip. So again, you never get a second day on any regular month with the moon being 96 and all the way down to 95.8, as we shared today with the film and photograph footage. It just doesn't happen. So if you chose November 9th, you're not a fully restored new moon believer with the light on the lampstand. In astronomical terms, you chose a waning moon that went below 99% on November 9th at the dawn, and even lower waned by the sunrise time period. That's just the astronomical discussion. If you want to choose doing that, we're not going to stop you. Think about it. There are people only using a solar calendar with the Gregorian. Now, there are some people that only use a lunar. We use all three. We're not going to stop people from getting off the Gregorian. The many do what they do. They listen to the warning signs on the cigarette package, as an example. So why are they going to listen to all of the information here? People are not built that way when you're not on the scriptures. Remember, the scriptures say, do not add or take away. So this takes patience because you're not adding or taking away. You're utilizing all of the information, and you can verify it outside in creation with film and photograph footage. But how many do you see on any Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel going outside like we do every day to verify this? This takes patience, love, joy, peace. The first three fruit of the Spirit produce patience. So you have to really have the patience. You have to have the love of YaHUaH and what he provides to tell time to wait on him. And this is hard work, and people like to dumb things down because, they don't like to do the work. How many people will talk your ear off about the Sabbath and new moon days, but will not work 6 days a week, as it is instructed by the Torah? So, again, as we're going to go through this for the rest of the month, we're going to share this on the community page now. I'm not going to make a video every day. We're going to share this on the community page, and you can verify if you do your own numbers according to the writings of Hanok very easily. Again, the first day of any scriptural month, Hanok chapter 78, verses 12 through 13, where the moon rules the whole night through, and it becomes restored. And then the following day, this count of 15 days starts. So we're going to put this in the community page every day because why? Humility is concerned with what is right. Humility is difficult. It demands that you do the work, and it demands that you remove your opinions. So again, anybody coming at me hard, we welcome it. Why? Because this is not my opinion. All I did was get the information, went outside and tested and proved it with film and photograph footage, and aligned it to the writings of Hanok. Now, if you have another proposal, extremely interested with this methodology. But if you want to add and take away from the sun, moon, and stars, and the light on a lampstand, and the full moon in its restoration process with all this information from Hanok, then why would I want to discuss anything with you? I'm not interested in adding and taking away. This is what provides me peace and many others, and why this YouTube channel is growing exponentially, because people are seeing how easy this is when you use the whole bits and parts of the information. Think about the cigarette package analogy or example. People have decided to heed the sign on the cigarette package, and now they do not smoke anymore, and they are healthier for it. That's all this is. So the action of, or process of recording how long something takes patience. And you can measure all of this knowledge from day to day, which pours forth speech. Again, dawn, sunrise, noon, sunset, moonrise, moonset, and the phases of the moon and their positions to true north and their height, because night to night reveals further knowledge. Again, this knowledge a fool would not delight in. Because why? It's too much work. It's easier to dumb it down and come up with some simple solution in their mind, which is their opinion. And we've got tons of them. Again, tons of jigs out there. This is not a jig. This is serious stuff. So, again, if you're getting a little allergic to artificial intelligence, nothing artificial about this when you can prove it with film and photograph footage like everybody did to the minute and to the second with the lunar eclipse. So, you can actually know sunrise in advance, go outside and see it right to the minute and the second. So people that go over this, it's just a Winnie the Pooh moment or a Rain Man moment, which is nothing more than cognitive dissonance and or something that's worse. It turns into what is known as cognitive bias, because truth has 3 stages. So, again, the leaven. Where is the leaven? Well, it's not a person. The leaven is, when you understand 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 8, and Galatians chapter 5, verse 9, do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? So when you add and take away from all of the lights, sun, moon, and stars, and just focus on a sunrise time period, that's the leaven, or a sunset. So again, the Egyptians had you focus on the sunrise for a day start. The Babylonians had you do a sunset, and it creates great confusion. It's opinionated right down to a culture. So this is why Zechariah said, I am saving or delivering my people from the land of sunrise and from the land of the sunset. Again, the leaven, which leavens the whole lump. Really basic to explain scripturally, let alone astronomically, as we've seen out of these 3 past scriptural study videos. So from the first day of the 8th month, second day, and today, the 3rd day of the 8th month. So again, remember, patience if you wait on YaHUaH, because design demands a designer. So what does that mean? Learn the witnesses from the dawn, the start of a true day start, all the way to sunrise, the first hour. Because remember, during this time period, we rise before the dawn and shua, cry out for help to understand all of this. Sunrise is the first hour, high noon, sunset into a reb, and then first, second watch. And after that time period, the 180 degree mark. And this is where the light is a light on a lampstand, and why people have gone before the night watches to study the word. And by the dawn, start of the 4th watch, all the way to the first hour, is where some great information is found. But this is timekeeping. It's the action or process for recording how long something takes, and it takes patience, let alone keeping the records and being organized enough to know in advance that the 6th month was going to have that celestial event, let alone the 8th month, and to share with people a year in advance that that was going to occur, when everybody denied that. And then they found themselves, oh wow, it did happen. So very basic to explain and go over. And here's the punchline. With discernment comes division. A person who seeks to be discerning must be willing to suffer the effects of this division. It will divide not only the believer, but it may even divide a discerning believer from one who is undiscerning. And it can even separate the mature from the immature, the naive from the prudent. And why it is so important to never be presumptuous with the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH. Remember, who are the presumptuous ones? Well, the mother of all manifest movements that make stuff up with the Gregorian calendar that tell you, oh, it's the sun. And we have a solar calendar, it's called the Gregorian, and forget about that quarter of a day every year. A year is only 365 days, and then they find themselves having to intercalate. Well, then there is, the offshoots of this type of mindset, presumptuous ones, that go with only a lunar solar approach. Hey, when the moon greets the sunrise, that's it. That's presumptuous. I can't change that. That's the actual definition of it, and the actual physical action that is actually demonstrated by people in this day and age. When the scriptures don't support it, neither do the sun, moon, and stars astronomically, which you can prove in advance and then test and prove outside in creation. Very easy to prove. Again, we stay away from presumptuous ones that are having Rain Man movements, that cognitive dissonance, and then turns into what is known as cognitive bias. 3 stages of truth. And we're very comfortable with the progression. Why? Because we're tired of opinions. Because we trust in YaHUaH with all our heart, and we do not lean on our own understanding, because we use all of the witnesses with the sun, moon, and stars, and all the ways we can measure it here and now. So, hallelujah, it is indeed the 3rd day of the 8th month, the pagan day of Thursday, November 10th, 2022. So, in the community page moving forward, all the way till the day where the light wholly disappears, we'll leave that in the community page with these charts. And please feel free to create your own for your area. We highly encourage you to do that. The learning that comes from it will settle you and provide peace beyond measure, because peace only comes from the Father of lights if you use all his witnesses of light. And it's a wonderful thing. So, may the Father of lights, YaHUaH, the only self-existent one, continue to keep and guard each and every one of you. And may the Messiah Yahushua that taught us the lights are a light on a lampstand and not sunrise or sunset, because you will miss the signs. So, may the Messiah Yahushua be in everything we say and do, just as he demonstrated. Have a YAHsome third day of the 8th month, everyone. All the best in the name which is above all names.